Are you wondering what the cost of living is here in the Seattle, Washington area? Well, lucky for you, in today's video, I'm going over just that, so stay tuned. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe here so you don't miss any of my future videos on what it's like living over here in the Seattle metropolitan area. People just like yourself reach out to me here from YouTube all the time when they're looking to make the move over and looking to purchase a home here in the Seattle metropolitan area. I'm an active real estate agent over here, so happy to help you out with that home buying process and finding the right place for you. But like I said, on today's video, I want to go over the cost of living in the Seattle, Washington area, and I'm going to break down some of my personal expenses so you can get a really good idea of what you might be able to expect on a monthly basis when it comes to your cost of living. Now, there's quite a few categories I'm going to go over here. Some of them range based on your location in the Seattle metro area. Seattle metro is a very large area, so there's some variance in here, and specifically that's with the first category, and that's real estate. This changes a lot based on where you are. I mean, you can live down south, 35, 40 miles south of Seattle in the Tacoma area, where median home prices are right around $500,000. You can get a home like this one on J Street for 1,300 square feet, recently sold for $490,000, a 3-bedroom home. You know, an older craftsman style home, has some updates, has a backyard. This is a good example of something you could find in Tacoma, and this is going to be the cheaper end of things. You're not going to find much cheaper than this in the Seattle metropolitan area. There will be some options, some smaller homes, and then condos and townhomes as well, of course, on the lower end. But in terms of the home prices here, this is getting close to as low as you're gonna get, and this is in the Tacoma area. Now, you could go all the way north to Linwood, which is about 15 miles north of Seattle, where average home prices are about $800,000 right now. There's a lot of people that live in Linwood and commute into Seattle for work, so it's a relatively convenient location for those of you working in the Seattle area to live in Linwood. You could get a home like this in Linwood that's, you know, just over 1,500 square feet, recently sold for $715,000. It's a 2-story home, some updates. It's got a big backyard. This is just your typical, you know, subdivision type living home here in the Seattle metro area. And like I said, in Linwood, this home is about $715,000. There's a lot of these types of homes all around Seattle metro, anywhere from, you know, if you go further north, from the low 600s all the way to the over $1 million, depending if you're on the east side, an expensive city. And speaking of that, on the expensive end, you could go to a city like Bellevue, where the median home prices are $1.8 million right now. So you could get a home like this one in Bellevue. It's 5 bedrooms, it's 2,600 square feet, recently sold for $1.7 million. You can see it's a clean looking 2-story home. It's had some updates. It's, you know, partially original. This is, again, kind of just a typical home in a subdivision here in the Seattle metro area, but it's Bellevue, so it's going to be much more expensive because of all that Bellevue has to offer. It's the most expensive place to live here in the Seattle metro. So this kind of, when we're talking about home prices, there is such a range. We start at Tacoma, that $490,000 house, all the way to Bellevue, this $1.7 million. And there's plenty of homes, of course, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 million, new construction in the Bellevue east side area, luxury homes, homes with views, all that kind of stuff. And there's everything in between. I've got a lot of clients purchasing homes right now in the, you know, 600 to 800 range is a pretty common price point for first-time home buyers. So there's a lot of that going on. And, you know, just every price range in between. It just depends what city you're in. So you've got to first narrow down where you might want to live, whether that's based on a job that you already have set up over here, figure out those commute times, and then what cities would be realistic for you to live in, and then go from there and figure out what you might be able to afford. Now, when it comes to renting, very similar thing. Depends completely where you are at. If you're a little ways outside of the Seattle and Bellevue area, you could rent a 3-bedroom house for around $2,500 to $3,000 a month. That's pretty common, you know, outside of Seattle, Bellevue, Kirkland, some of the more expensive areas. As you get into the more expensive areas, you could rent a house $3,500, $4,000 a month. Again, it depends what you're going to get, how large of a home. but that's a good average of what you might be able to expect. Now, when it comes to apartments, same thing. On the outskirts, the suburbs outside of Seattle, Bellevue areas, you can find, one bedroom apartments for 16, 17, 1800 bucks a month, two bedrooms closer to 2000. And then as you get into Seattle, if you want to live in a place like South Lake Union, which is close to Amazon and all the tech companies that are down there in Seattle, you could find a studio for about 2,200 bucks a month, and then a one bedroom for about 2,500 bucks a month. So of course, more expensive area because of the walkability and the tech companies and all the money down there in the Seattle area. And a similar story on the east side for the Bellevue area that's very expensive. If you want to live close to downtown Bellevue, you're going to be getting a studio or a one bedroom for the mid 2000s. That's really what you should expect there. And then if you want something a little bit cheaper, under 2000, you're going to need to go either further north or south outside of those areas to find an apartment, a one bedroom for under 2000. All right, so the second category I'm going to go over here are utilities. So utilities, very important. These are expenses, obviously, that you're paying every single month. So I'm going to go over my personal utilities here. I live in a single family home, so I'm not living in a condo or a townhome. It's going to be a little bit different if you're looking at condos, apartments, townhomes, things like that, because sometimes those fees are wrapped into your rent. So that changes a little bit. But for a single family home, this will give you a good idea of what to expect. And again, it changes on city to city, some of these charges. So don't take this as completely set in stone. It depends where you end up, but this is going to give you a good idea. So starting off with my gas bill here, I pay about 10 bucks a month for my gas. Really cheap, not that big of a deal. Moving on to my water bill, 30 to 40 bucks a month is what I seem to be paying right now for my water. Sewer bill, right around $90 a month. Again, this is one that changes quite a bit city to city, so you just gotta figure out where you're at. Some people I know pay cheaper, some pay a little bit more. But right now for me, I'm paying right about $90 a month. My electric bill, power bill, in the summertime, about 60 to 70 bucks a month is what it's running us. And then as we get into the winter, the coldest months, 250 to 300 a month, it can get relatively expensive. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And as you get into those mid-seasons like spring and fall, you're gonna be right in between there, 100, 150 bucks a month, just depending how much you use. Again, mine might be a little bit higher than others because when I'm not out with my buyers, my clients and whatnot, I'm working from home. My wife is also a stay-at-home mom with our kids, so there's almost always somebody home. Versus some people that work a 9-to-5 job, they leave in the morning, they turn the heat down. Regardless of the time of year, they turn it down to 63 because they're not home. We typically need to heat our house all day because there's usually somebody here, so ours might be a little bit higher than average in this area. So that's something to consider. For garbage, we pay about 40 bucks a month, and then for Wi-Fi here, we pay about $65 a month with Comcast. There's some other options depending what neighborhood you're in. Comcast is the only one that's offered in my neighborhood, but some other locations around here, there are some other providers. Some people I know that pay a little bit less than me, and some that pay a little bit more. So again, that varies a little bit, but for me right now, $65 a month. All right, so that breaks down my utility bills. Let's move on to public transportation. So public transportation, again, it's going to depend where you're living. If you're living really far north, you may not have a whole lot of options for public transportation right now. We've got what's called the light rail that goes through Seattle, goes down to the airport, to SeaTac, and it's working its way up north. It's not completely up north yet. Furthest north it is Northgate, which is basically the North Seattle area. So they're building some stations further up. It just hasn't gone that way yet. So again, it depends where you are if you're able to access this light rail. But if you ride this light rail, the fares depend on how far you're going, but you can expect anywhere from $2.25 to $3. Now, I will tell you, I have rode the light rail many times. We've gone down to Seattle to go to a hockey game or a soccer game or something, and instead of deciding to park down there, we'll drive to the nearest light rail station and take the light rail down. Now, one thing you need to know is that they do charge for it. There's pay stations and whatnot. Nobody's ever going to check your ticket. I always pay, but I have nobody's ever asked to see my ticket. People will just walk on the light rail all the time without paying. So it's not heavily supervised, I guess is a good way to put it right now. But those are the fares, $2.25, $3, depending on how far you're going. Now, if you're living in the Seattle area, you want to take an express bus, about $3, $3.25 is what you should expect. And then gas prices, if you're somebody that's just commuting, you're driving yourself, I almost hesitate to put this in this video because it changes so much. Obviously, if you're watching this video 6 months, 12 months down the road, this is probably not what gas prices are. But as of right now, the closest gas station to my house is about $4.90. Gas prices are high right now. That's what we're going through at the moment. We're not as high as California, that's for sure. I've seen in California, there's places that are $6 and $7 a gallon. We have not got that high. So we've been right around the fives. I've seen some $5.50, but that's kind of where we're at right now. All right, moving on to another category, groceries. So, groceries are very specific to the family and where you shop. So it's hard to say exactly it's going to be more expensive or less expensive than an area. I think on average, Seattle area is probably going to be a little bit more expensive. You can look on a site called bestplaces.net, and it kind of rates average prices, in a specific city compared to the national average. National average being the number 100, they rate our grocery prices 108. So we're 8 points higher than the national average in grocery prices. Now, this factors into where you're shopping. There's a lot of natural grocery stores around here in this area, like a Whole Foods and a Trader Joe's and whatnot. Some other places where you're going to be spending more if you shop there. Or you could go to Walmart or Winco, which have pretty much the cheapest grocery prices. So, and there's options right in the middle too. So it depends where you shop. Personally, for us, family of three, we usually spend about $800 a month on our groceries. We shop at Costco and some of the local kind of mid-range grocery stores around here. All right, small things like haircuts. For myself, I pay about $35 for my haircut. There's some places you can go charge $20, $25. So it depends who you go to, $20 to $40 for a men's haircut. For women, again, if you're going like downtown Bellevue area, just expect to pay probably a few $100s. I know my wife has gone down there, unfortunately, but there's some other options. I think $150, $200 for a woman's haircut. Obviously, they're more expensive than men's. That's just kind of how it goes around here, but those are some things to think about as well. All right, taxes. Taxes are a super important one that you need to know. So, state income tax. There is no state income tax in Washington. If you're coming from a place like California and you're paying 10% in state income tax, yeesh, you're going to have a huge break when you come up here. That's going to be a nice relief for you coming up this way. No state income tax in the state of Washington, so it can save you quite a bit of money on that end. Flip side of that is sales tax. We do have sales tax here. This isn't Oregon, so we do have sales tax. State sales tax is 6.5, and then you're going to be charged a local rate on top. So you're going to be right around 10%, depending what city you're in. So just expect 9, 10, 10.5%, somewhere right in there, depending exactly where you are. So the next category is childcare. So if you've got young kids, need to put them in daycare, it's definitely something you want to consider. It seems to be higher than the national average around here. We've looked at some places with our daughter. Seemed to be a lot of places around our neck of the woods was about $1,800 a month for 5 days a week full-time childcare. There's some options where you can go 3 days a week for a little bit cheaper, and then if you have a second kid, you get a bit of a discount for the second kid. And then there's some places, even you go in the more expensive neighborhoods and areas like the Bellevues and that east side kind of expensive area where you might pay closer to $2,000 to $2,500 a month, I've heard, in some of those areas for one child for full-time childcare. All right, and the last category here is healthcare. Again, this varies quite a bit on where you go, your insurance, all different sorts of things. But just using this Best Places site, again, that kind of ranks the national average. National average being 100, they've ranked the Seattle area as an 85, so more affordable than the national average when it comes to healthcare. And of course, we've got a lot of great healthcare companies around here in the Seattle area. There's a lot of people that come from out of state for their healthcare needs here in the Seattle metro area. All right, well, this wraps up my video for the cost of living in the Seattle metropolitan area. Like I said, if you've got questions, if you're moving over here, you need help purchasing a home and finding that right neighborhood over here, feel free to reach out to me here at my info on my screen. Be more than happy to help you out with that. Thanks for watching this one.